Welcome back to part 2. In the first part, we explored how simple daily actions can keep your mind sharp and your body agile well into your later years. But there's another daily choice that can shape the way your brain ages. And it begins before you've even finished your morning coffee. Now let's talk about breakfast. After age 55, your body becomes less efficient at protein synthesis, the process of building and maintaining muscle tissue. This means the protein you eat earlier in the day is more valuable than the protein you eat later. Your morning meal should include at least 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein. But here's the sophisticated part. Pair that protein with foods rich in polyphenols, compounds found in colourful fruits and vegetables that act like antioxidants for your brain, blueberries with Greek yogurt, spinach in your omelette, a handful of walnuts with your oatmeal. You're not just feeding your body, you're feeding the mitochondria in your brain cells. Dr. Dale Bredesen, who's reversed cognitive decline in hundreds of patients, emphasizes that your brain is like a campfire. It needs the right fuel to burn brightly. Processed foods, sugar spikes, and inflammatory oils are like throwing wet leaves on the fire. But high-quality proteins, healthy fats, and antioxidant-rich plants, that's premium firewood. Speaking of fuel, let's address something controversial: intermittent fasting. The research on this is fascinating, especially for people over 55. When you give your digestive system a break, say 12 to 14 hours between dinner and breakfast, your body shifts into what's called autophagy, literally self-eating. This is your cellular housekeeping system, breaking down damaged proteins and organelles and recycling them into new functional components. But, and this is crucial, the benefits of intermittent fasting depend entirely on what you do during your eating windows. If you're fasting for 14 hours and then eating processed junk, you're missing the point entirely. The magic happens when you combine the cellular cleanup of fasting with the high-quality nutrients your brain needs to rebuild and thrive. Carol, 73, discovered this accidentally. She'd never been much of a breakfast eater anyway, so when her doctor mentioned intermittent fasting for weight management, she decided to try eating just lunch and dinner. But instead of feeling deprived, she found she had more energy, clearer thinking, and better mood stability. The key was what she ate during her eating window. Nutrient-dense, minimally processed foods that her grandmother would have recognized. Her brain got the signal that resources were abundant and high quality, so it invested in growth and repair rather than just survival. Now let's talk about something that might seem unrelated, but is actually central to brain health: your gut microbiome. The community of bacteria living in your digestive system produces about 90% of your body's serotonin, the neurotransmitter most associated with mood and well-being. After 55, your gut microbiome naturally becomes less diverse, partly due to changes in diet, medication use, and decreased stomach acid production. But you can rebuild this internal ecosystem with the right approach. Fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, and miso introduce beneficial bacteria. Prebiotic foods like garlic, onions, asparagus, and Jerusalem artichokes feed the good bacteria you already have. Think of your gut as a garden. Probiotics are like planting new seeds, but prebiotics are like enriching the soil so everything can grow. Most people focus on probiotics, but ignore prebiotics, which is like planting flowers in concrete. Dr. Emran Mayer at UCLA has shown that the gut-brain connection is so strong that changes in your microbiome can affect memory, mood, and even personality within weeks. When you diversify your gut bacteria, you're literally changing your brain chemistry from the inside out. This brings us to hydration. which sounds boring but is actually one of the most underutilized tools for cognitive enhancement. Your brain is about 75% water, and even mild dehydration as little as 2% can significantly impair cognitive function, especially in older adults. But here's what most people don't know. It's not just about drinking water. It's about cellular hydration. Adding a pinch of high-quality sea salt to your water helps your cells actually absorb and use the water you're drinking. Your kidneys become less efficient at conserving sodium as you age, so a little extra salt can actually improve hydration at the cellular level. Dr. James DiNicolantonio, a cardiovascular research scientist, found that people who consume adequate salt have better cognitive function and lower rates of dementia. The key word is adequate, not too little, not too much, but the amount your individual body needs based on your activity level, climate, and physiology. Try this. First thing in the morning, drink a large glass of water with a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt and a squeeze of lemon. This isn't just hydration. It's giving your adrenal glands the minerals they need to produce hormones, supporting your kidneys' filtering function, and providing your brain with the electrolytes needed for optimal neural transmission. Now, let's get back to that afternoon energy dip we discussed. Instead of fighting it with caffeine, which can disrupt your sleep cycle 6 to 8 hours later, try working with your natural ultradian rhythms. Around 1 to 3 p.m., your core body temperature naturally drops, melatonin production increases slightly, and your prefrontal cortex becomes less active. This isn't dysfunction. It's your brain's way of saying, time for maintenance mode. Use this window strategically. If you can nap, great. 20 minutes will reset your alertness without interfering with nighttime sleep. But if napping isn't possible, try what researchers call quiet wakefulness. Lie down if you can, close your eyes, and let your mind wander. No podcasts, no music, no stimulation. Just rest. During these rest periods, your brain's default mode network becomes highly active. This is when your brain processes emotional experiences, consolidates memories, and makes creative connections. Many breakthrough insights happen during these seemingly unproductive moments. Einstein called this combinatory play, the mental activity that leads to creative breakthroughs. He got some of his best ideas while walking, showering, or just sitting quietly. Your brain needs this downtime to reorganize information and generate insights, but rest is only restorative if you're genuinely tired. If your afternoon dip is caused by blood sugar crashes, dehydration, or lack of morning light exposure, then no amount of rest will help. This is why the morning routine is so crucial. It sets up your entire circadian rhythm for success. Let's talk about movement again, but from a different angle. We discussed resistance training and its cognitive benefits, but there's another type of movement that's especially powerful for the aging brain. Complex, coordinated activities that require what researchers call cognitive motor integration. Think dancing, martial arts, tennis, or even activities like gardening that require you to coordinate multiple body parts while making decisions. These activities light up both the motor cortex and the prefrontal cortex simultaneously, creating what neuroscientists call bilateral brain training. Dr. Agnieszka Bozinska at Colorado State University found that older adults who engaged in dance classes showed improvements not just in balance and coordination, but in memory, attention, and processing speed. The physical and cognitive challenges of learning choreography, staying in rhythm, and coordinating with a partner created a perfect storm of neuroplasticity. But you don't need formal classes. The key is variability and challenge. If you walk the same route every day at the same pace, your brain goes on autopilot. But if you vary your route, change your pace, walk backwards for short stretches, or add in some balance challenges, you're forcing your brain to stay engaged and adaptive. Here's a specific protocol that combines multiple elements. 3 times a week, spend 30 minutes doing activities that challenge both your body and brain simultaneously. This could be learning a new dance routine from YouTube, practicing Tai Chi in your backyard, or even playing catch with a grandchild while having a conversation. The magic happens when your brain has to coordinate movement, balance, timing, and cognitive processing all at once. This is much more powerful than doing physical exercise and mental puzzles separately. Now, let's address something that many people struggle with: technology. The relationship between older adults and technology is often presented as a struggle, but the research shows something completely different. Learning to use new technology is one of the most powerful forms of cognitive training available. When you learn to use a smartphone, tablet, or computer, you're not just acquiring a skill, you're building what researchers call cognitive scaffolding. You're creating new neural networks that support problem solving, working memory, and adaptive thinking. Dr. Sherry Willis at the University of Washington studied older adults learning to use tablets and found improvements that transferred to other cognitive domains. Learning to navigate touchscreens improved their spatial reasoning. Learning to use apps improved their working memory. Learning to troubleshoot problems improved their executive function. The key is approaching technology, learning with the right mindset. Don't think of yourself as behind or too old. Think of yourself as building cognitive resilience. Every time you figure out how to do something new on a device, you're proving to your brain that you can still learn, adapt, and grow. Start small and be patient with yourself. Choose one piece of technology that would genuinely improve your life. Maybe video calling to stay in touch with family, or a meditation app, or even something fun like a game that challenges your thinking. Spend 10 minutes a day exploring and practicing. Ask for help when you need it, but don't let others do it for you. The learning happens in the struggle. This connects to something crucial about social connection. The quality of your relationships matters more than the quantity, but there's also something to be said for diversity in your social network. Research shows that people with varied social connections, friends of different ages, backgrounds, and interests, maintain cognitive flexibility better than those with homogeneous social groups. This doesn't mean you need to become a social butterfly. It means being intentional about connecting with people who see the world differently than you do. Maybe it's joining an intergenerational book club, volunteering with people from different backgrounds, or simply striking up conversations with neighbours you haven't talked to before. Each different perspective you encounter exercises your theory of mind, your ability to understand that others have different thoughts, feelings, and experiences than you do. This cognitive flexibility is protective against age-related mental rigidity and keeps your thinking fresh and adaptive. But connection isn't just about other people. There's compelling research on the cognitive benefits of connecting with nature, with animals, and even with creative pursuits that give you a sense of flow and absorption. Dr. Mark Berman at the University of Chicago found that even looking at pictures of nature can improve attention and working memory. Actually spending time in natural settings, what the Japanese call forest bathing, has been shown to reduce stress hormones, boost immune function, and improve cognitive performance for hours afterward. You don't need wilderness access for this to work. A local park, a tree-lined street, even tending houseplants can provide some of these benefits. The key is what researchers call soft fascination, the gentle, effortless attention that natural settings evoke, as opposed to the directed, effortful attention that urban environments demand. This natural attention restoration is particularly important as we age because our capacity for directed attention, the kind needed for tasks like reading, problem solving, or learning new skills, becomes more limited. But when we restore this capacity through nature exposure, we're essentially recharging our cognitive batteries. Let's talk about something else that's often overlooked: the power of creative expression for brain health. Whether it's painting, writing, music, crafts, or any other creative pursuit, artistic activities engage multiple brain networks simultaneously in ways that are uniquely beneficial for neuroplasticity. Dr. Gene Cohen, who studied creativity and aging for decades, found that older adults who engaged in creative activities showed better physical health, fewer doctor visits, improved cognitive function, and enhanced psychological well-being compared to control groups. The creative process itself, imagining, planning, executing, and refining, exercises executive functions while providing emotional satisfaction and social connection. But here's what's interesting: the benefits come from the process, not the product. You don't have to be good at art to get the brain benefits. In fact, being a beginner at something creative might be more beneficial because it requires more cognitive flexibility and problem solving. Ruth, 79, had never considered herself artistic, but when her arthritis made her usual hobbies difficult, her daughter suggested watercolour painting. Ruth was sceptical. She'd never been able to draw a straight line. But she found that watercolours were forgiving, and the flowing, unpredictable nature of the medium suited her perfectionist personality. 2 years later, Ruth's paintings covered her walls, but more importantly, her confidence had transformed. Learning to work with uncertainty, to embrace happy accidents, to see beauty in imperfection, these lessons carried over into other areas of her life. She became more adaptable, more willing to try new things, more comfortable with not knowing all the answers. This brings us to something that might be the most important element of all: your relationship with uncertainty and change. The ability to remain curious and open in the face of the unknown is perhaps the strongest predictor of successful aging. Dr. Dilip Jeste, who directs the Center for Healthy Aging at UC San Diego, has identified what he calls wisdom as a measurable psychological trait that increases with age, but only in people who maintain what he calls cognitive flexibility and pragmatic knowledge of life. Wisdom, in this scientific context, isn't about having all the answers. It's about being comfortable with ambiguity, being able to see multiple perspectives, and maintaining hope and curiosity even when facing challenges. These qualities are trainable and improve with practice. One way to build this cognitive flexibility is through what psychologists call perspective-taking exercises. When you encounter a situation that frustrates or confuses you, try to imagine how at least 3 different people might view it. What would a child think? What about someone from a different culture? Someone with different life experiences? This isn't about changing your mind about everything. It's about keeping your mind limber and open. The more perspectives you can hold simultaneously, the more resilient and adaptive your thinking becomes. Sleep deserves special attention here because it's where all the day's learning gets consolidated and integrated. After 55, sleep architecture changes. You spend less time in deep sleep and more time in lighter stages. This isn't necessarily problematic, but it does mean you need to be more intentional about sleep quality. Your sleep environment matters more as you age. Temperature, darkness, and quiet become increasingly important for maintaining sleep continuity, but there are also behavioral factors that can dramatically improve sleep quality. The most important is maintaining consistent sleep and wake times, even on weekends. Your circadian rhythm becomes more fragile with age, and irregular schedules can throw it off for days. If you go to bed at 10 p.m., and wake at 6 a.m. during the week, try to stay within an hour of those times on weekends. Evening light exposure is crucial. After sunset, your environment should gradually dim to allow natural melatonin production. This doesn't mean sitting in darkness, but it does mean avoiding bright overhead lights and blue light from screens. Warm, dim lighting signals your brain that night is approaching. But here's something most people miss. Morning light exposure doesn't just help you wake up. It also helps you sleep better 12 to 14 hours later. The same photoreceptive cells that set your morning alertness also time your evening melatonin release. Bright morning light leads to more robust evening sleepiness. Temperature regulation also becomes more important with age. Your core body temperature needs to drop by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep, and this process becomes less efficient over time. A cool bedroom, around 65 to 68 degrees, can help facilitate this natural temperature drop. But you can also use temperature strategically. A warm bath or shower before bed raises your core temperature temporarily, and the rapid cooling that follows when you get out mimics your body's natural pre-sleep temperature drop, making you feel sleepy more quickly. Let's talk about something that might seem mundane, but is actually crucial: routine and ritual. Your brain loves predictability, especially as you age. Not because you're becoming rigid, but because predictable routines free up cognitive resources for the things that matter most. When your morning routine is automatic, the same sequence of waking, lighting, movement, and nourishment, your brain doesn't have to spend energy making decisions about these basic elements. This preserved cognitive energy can then be directed toward learning, creativity, problem solving, and connection. But there's a balance here. Too much routine leads to stagnation, while too little leads to decision fatigue. The sweet spot is having consistent routines for the foundational elements of your day: sleep, nutrition, movement, light exposure, while maintaining flexibility and novelty in your discretionary activities. Think of routines as the frame of a painting. The frame provides structure and support, but the art happens within that structure. Your daily routines provide the neurobiological foundation that allows for creativity, spontaneity, and growth in other areas of your life. This is why successful aging isn't about avoiding routine, it's about choosing the right routines. Routines that support your biology, preserve your cognitive energy, and create space for what brings you joy and meaning. Financial stress deserves mention here, because it's one of the most significant sources of chronic stress for older adults. And chronic stress is toxic to brain health. The hippocampus, your brain's memory center, is particularly vulnerable to the effects of cortisol, the stress hormone that's elevated during financial worry. While I can't give financial advice, the research is clear that having a sense of financial security, even if modest, is protective for cognitive health. This might mean downsizing to reduce expenses, learning new skills to generate income, or simply getting organized about your financial picture to reduce uncertainty. The key is moving from worry to action. Worry is rumination without solution, and it keeps your stress response chronically activated. Action, even small steps, activates your problem-solving networks and gives you a sense of agency and control. Purpose and meaning deserve deeper exploration here, because they're so central to thriving after 55. Dr. Patricia Boyle's research on purpose and Alzheimer's prevention found that purpose doesn't have to be grand or global. It can be local and personal, being a reliable friend, maintaining a garden, preserving family stories, or mastering a craft. The key elements of purpose seem to be feeling needed by others, having goals that extend beyond yourself, and engaging in activities that align with your values. Purpose gives your daily choices context and meaning, which helps your brain prioritize what's important and filter out what's not. But purpose can evolve. The purpose that drove you at 30 or 40 might not be the same as what drives you at 60 or 70. This isn't loss, it's refinement. You're becoming clearer about what truly matters to you, and this clarity is actually a form of wisdom. Legacy thinking is part of this. What do you want to pass on to future generations? This might be material inheritance, but it's more likely to be wisdom, skills, stories, or values. When you think about legacy, you naturally start focusing on what's truly important and meaningful. Many people find that their sense of purpose becomes more focused on relationships and experiences rather than achievements and accumulation. This shift actually aligns perfectly with what the brain science tells us about successful aging, that connection, learning, and meaning matter more than status or material success. Here's something that might surprise you. Humor and laughter are powerful tools for brain health and resilience. Laughter triggers the release of endorphins, reduces stress hormones, boosts immune function, and even provides a mild cardiovascular workout. But beyond the physiological benefits, humor serves important cognitive and social functions. It requires sophisticated mental processing. You have to understand context, recognize incongruity, and appreciate timing. Sharing laughter with others strengthens social bonds and creates positive shared memories. Dr. Suhang Jiang at Northwestern University found that older adults who maintained their sense of humor showed better cognitive flexibility and were more resilient in the face of age-related challenges. They were also more socially connected and reported higher life satisfaction. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to laugh at things that aren't funny. It means maintaining the ability to find lightness and joy in daily life, to see the absurd alongside the serious, to not take yourself so seriously that you can't enjoy the ridiculous moments that life provides. Gratitude practices have solid research backing for both mental and physical health benefits, but the key is making gratitude specific and personal rather than generic. Instead of, "I'm grateful for my health," try, "I'm grateful that my legs carried me up the stairs today," or "I'm grateful for the way the morning light looked on my coffee cup." This specificity engages different neural networks and creates stronger emotional resonance. You're training your brain to notice and appreciate details rather than just going through the motions of gratitude. Dr. Robert Emmons at UC Davis found that people who kept specific gratitude journals showed improvements in sleep quality, immune function, blood pressure, and overall life satisfaction. The practice literally rewires your brain to notice positive experiences more readily. But gratitude shouldn't be used to suppress or deny legitimate concerns or sadness. It's not about toxic positivity or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about maintaining perspective and recognizing that even in difficult times, there are usually elements worth appreciating. Physical touch and affection deserve mention because they're often overlooked in discussions of healthy aging. Humans are wired for physical connection, and the absence of appropriate touch can contribute to depression, anxiety, and even immune dysfunction. This might mean hugs with family and friends, petting animals, massage, or even self-massage. The pressure and warmth of appropriate physical contact triggers the release of oxytocin and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. If you live alone or have limited social contact, consider activities that involve appropriate physical interaction. Dancing classes, massage therapy, volunteering with animals, or even something like Tai Chi classes where you might practice partner exercises. The research on pet ownership and aging is particularly compelling. Pets provide companionship, routine, physical activity, especially dogs, and the kind of unconditional positive regard that's therapeutic for mental health. The responsibility of caring for another living being can also provide purpose and structure. Environmental factors in your home deserve attention too. As we age, our sensory systems become less acute, making environmental design more important for safety and cognitive function. Good lighting reduces eye strain and supports circadian rhythms. Reducing clutter makes navigation easier and reduces cognitive load. Plants improve air quality and provide natural beauty. But beyond the practical, your environment should reflect who you are and what you value. Surrounding yourself with objects that have meaning, photos that bring joy, and colours that please you isn't vanity, it's environmental psychology. Your surroundings influence your mood, energy, and sense of self. Music deserves special mention because of its unique effects on the aging brain. Listening to music activates multiple brain networks simultaneously: memory, emotion, movement, and attention. Playing music is even more powerful, engaging fine motor skills, timing, and complex cognitive processing. But here's what's fascinating. Musical memories are often preserved even in people with dementia. The neural networks that process music are distributed throughout the brain and seem to be particularly resilient to age-related changes. Even if you've never played an instrument, it's not too late to start. The cognitive demands of learning music, reading notation, coordinating hands, keeping time, listening critically, create exactly the kind of neuroplasticity that keeps the brain young. Singing, in particular, has unique benefits. It requires breath control, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It often involves social connection if done with others, and it can be deeply emotional and expressive in ways that support psychological well-being. Let's address something that many people worry about: cognitive decline and dementia. While these conditions are real and serious, the research shows that there's enormous variability in how people age cognitively. Many factors that influence cognitive health are within your control. The concept of cognitive reserve explains why some people maintain sharp thinking well into their 90s, while others struggle much earlier. Cognitive reserve is built through education, complex occupations, social connections, multilingualism, musical training, and lifelong learning. But here's the hopeful part. You can build cognitive reserve at any age. Every new skill you learn, every meaningful relationship you nurture, every challenge you take on is like making deposits in your cognitive bank account. The Mediterranean Mind Diet has strong research support for brain health. This eating pattern emphasizes fish, leafy greens, berries, nuts, olive oil, and whole grains while limiting processed foods, red meat, and refined sugars. People who follow this pattern show slower cognitive decline and lower rates of dementia. But diet is just one piece of the puzzle. Physical exercise, social engagement, stress management, quality sleep, and purposeful activity all contribute to cognitive resilience. The good news is that these factors are synergistic. They work better together than in isolation. Mental health support is crucial and shouldn't be overlooked. Depression and anxiety aren't inevitable parts of aging, and they're very treatable at any age. If you're experiencing persistent sadness, worry, or loss of interest in activities you used to enjoy, professional help can make a tremendous difference. Therapy techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, are particularly effective for older adults because they focus on practical strategies for managing thoughts and behaviors. The skills you learn in therapy become tools you can use throughout your life. Medication can also be helpful when appropriate, but it works best in combination with lifestyle changes and psychological support. The goal isn't just to manage symptoms, but to build resilience and coping skills. Spiritual practices and meaning-making activities support mental health in ways that go beyond traditional therapy. Whether through religion, meditation, philosophy, or personal reflection, having a framework for understanding life's challenges and finding meaning in experiences contributes to psychological resilience. This doesn't require belief in any particular doctrine. It's about having ways to process difficult experiences, find hope during challenging times, and connect with something larger than yourself. For some people, this might be nature, art, service to others, or family legacy. As we wrap up this comprehensive exploration, remember that the goal isn't to implement every strategy at once. That would be overwhelming and counterproductive. Instead, think of this as a menu of evidence-based options that you can choose from based on your interests, circumstances, and goals. Start with one or two strategies that resonate with you and seem sustainable. Build these into your routine until they become automatic. Then gradually layer in additional elements as you feel ready. The most important thing is to maintain a growth mindset, the belief that you can continue to learn, adapt, and improve regardless of your age. This mindset itself is protective and empowering. Your brain is remarkably plastic and adaptive. Your body is more resilient than you might think. Your potential for growth and contribution doesn't diminish with age. It just takes different forms. The science is overwhelmingly clear. How you age is largely up to you. The choices you make today about how you move, what you eat, how you connect with others, and how you challenge yourself will determine not just how long you live, but how well you live. Every morning is a new opportunity to send your brain and body the message that you're still growing, still learning, still becoming. The question isn't whether you can thrive in this phase of life. The question is what kind of thriving you want to create. Your cells are listening. Your neurons are waiting. Your future self is counting on the choices you make today. Make them count.